Banana republics are something you hear a lot about. Just like, well, every banana republic, or, this banana republic that just formed out of nowhere.
I've only ever heard of the brand.
Yeah, I was thinking that's what this is about.
Well, no.
The clothes.
He's probably going to mention that.
The brand was based off of something that already existed, but I don't know what it was based on. I don't know what the definition of an actual banana republic is.
It is literally an unstable country with an economy dependent on the export of natural resources. Basically, the Banana Republic. So basically, it's the...
So like if you didn't grow bananas in your country, you'd basically be screwed.
Yes. Much like the Banana Republic of Venezuela, which was completely and wholly dependent upon its oil production. Then when the oil prices worldwide fell down, basically they were left with a shit ton of oil and no one to buy it, and thus their economy went bust. That's the concept of a banana republic, and they have popped up and fell out, popped up and fell out. Anywho, this is Salmonella.
Hey kids, do you like fashionable, high-quality apparel at an affordable price? Well, too bad, because that's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to learn you all a thing or two about the real banana republics. Our story begins during the turn of the 20th century in Central and South America. Agriculture's kind of a big deal right now. You've got a ton of little plantations all over the place growing bananas, sugar, pineapples, that kind of thing. And they're doing all right for themselves, no big deal. But then refrigeration happened, and it changed everything. Because now produce could be kept fresh for way longer in transit, meaning the fruit companies could suddenly open up their business to the international market, their biggest new trade partner being the United States. This massive opportunity gave rise to three main companies, known as the United Fruit Company, Cuyamel Fruit Company, and the Vaccaro Bros. By growing, shipping, and selling fruit, these three firms made just obscene amounts of money, a lot of which went towards buying out smaller family-owned farms and plantations. This allowed them to make even obscener amounts of money, until eventually the only competition that remained was each other. And then shit got real. The year is 1910. One of the companies I mentioned, Cuyamel, was doing most of its business in the country of Honduras, when the president of Honduras, Miguel Davila, decided to give a land grant to the Vaccaro Bros in exchange for helping to build some roadways. In doing so, they basically stole a bunch of Cuyamel's potential plantations and gave them to a competitor. So Samuel Zamuri, owner of Cuyamel, said to himself, "Dang, I hate those guys. If only there was some way for a guy like me to significantly influence the world around him for his own personal gain."
Oh, wait
a minute. So he used a portion of his McDuck-esque fortune to hire a mercenary army, which he gave to one of his friends, former Honduran President Manuel Bonilla. And together, they overthrew the entire fucking government of Honduras.
Jesus.
Yeah, that really happened. And honestly, yeah.
Should have called it Cuyamel. Anyway, Bonilla took power and gave very generous concessions to Cuyamel and United as thanks. But then America saw this, and they were like, "Hey, that's not very freedom of you, young man." To which Zamuri replied, "It's okay, we're gonna help this country succeed. After all, politics and business are essentially the same thing." While I suppose it's not our place to be policing the governments of other nations yet, still though, maybe... Oh, also, nanners. Alright, I'm sold, do what you want. So with their interests secured...
Nanners? Wait, sea nanners? I love that guy.
Nanners?
Oh, God.
The businesses continued to thrive and expand, but since they got cut so many breaks by the government, very little of their commerce actually ended up benefiting Honduras as a whole. In fact, the national debt of Honduras got so bad that the government ended up not being able to perform a lot of its functions. So in response, the three fruit companies stepped in and said, "No worries, we got this," and decided to basically build the nation's infrastructure for them, including roads, railways, shipping lines, telegraphs, telephone lines, radio towers. They even switched the whole country off to the US dollar. Keep in mind, this wasn't out of the goodness of their hearts. It was mostly just to make their own businesses function more efficiently.
Yeah. That's one thing about economies. Economies must grow. Like, that's the thing, if you have a natural resource that is in abundance and you're able to sell it and export it to the world and make a good amount of money, what needs to happen at that point is either the private businesses or the government have to step up and have to like really get like setting up infrastructure for different styles of jobs, such as manufacturing, transportation, just an abundance of different jobs that could be readily available and need to be readily available so that, you know, more people can get more money, and more people get more money is put into the economy through taxation, and then boom, next thing you know, societies are being built, and thus cities are being built, and thus towns are being built on the outskirts of said cities, and thus that's where we find ourselves today. But here's the problem, and I know where this is going, so let's
But it was helpful either way. Anyway, now, not only did they have total power over their plantations, but also a monopoly over nearly every major industry in the country. Many other Central American nations soon followed this pattern, creating a corrupt sort of symbiosis whereby the fruit companies get huge tax breaks and land grants in exchange for a modernized infrastructure and payoffs to the rich minority. And so, the banana republics were born. Sounds like a pretty sweet gig, right? And it was. For the upper 5% of the populations who happen to hold some direct share in the plantations or shipping lines. For your average Jose, though, life mostly consisted of working on land that wasn't even theirs in exchange for dirt-poor wages. So that's how things were for like a decade and a half.
Yeah, except that's not pure capitalism. That's like, I hate to say it, but we're going closer and closer towards that kind of corporatism. Corporatism, basically, where the corporation, where, you know, corporate entities and government entities are fused together and work together to only benefit one another and each other. Basically, that's what we're heading towards, and it's because these companies are the only ones that can afford minimum wages to be $15 an hour, whereas your average mom and pop places can't afford $15 an hour, and it's because the cost of living in every country, or the cost of living in this country, has just gone up and up and up and up and up. Now, if the U.S. government got a handle on the budget and stopped inflation from just like completely blowing everything out of proportion, then we may very well still have a minimum wage that's like $7 an hour, because the cost of living, instead of, you know, your rent being $1,500, instead $1,500 pays for your rent, pays for your car payment, pays for your electricity bill, pays for your power bill, and gives you a little bit left over that you can save. So that's supposed to be how it works, but because inflation's so far out of control, this is what we're dealing with nowadays. And pretty soon, a bundle of bananas is going to cost $10, and a thing of bread is going to cost $15, because inflation just keeps going through the roof. It's insane.
At some point, Coyamel was bought out by United, but then Zamore became the owner of the whole thing, somehow, and the Vaccaro company was renamed as Standard Fruit. Then one day, in 1944, the country of Guatemala had a democratic revolution, and the newly elected leader, Juan Jose Arevalo, wasn't happy with how the companies treated his people, so he implemented several reforms, like a minimum wage law and universal suffrage. And while the populace got a lot of benefit out of this, United Fruit most certainly did not, because more rights for their workers means less profits for the business as a whole. Then Guatemala got a new president, Jacobo Arbenz, and he continued these reforms, and United continued to get the metaphorical shaft until finally, in 1953, they decided to go to the USA for help. Oh, Eisenhower. Yo, what's up? This Jacobo guy, he's making us pay minimum wages. Well, that doesn't sound very good for business. That's not all, though. He's also taking our unused land and giving it back to the people. Does that sound familiar? Oh dear. You don't think? By the way it's looking, Dwight, I'd say he's a dirty, oh god, collectivizing? No. Commie. Yeah, go get him, Dwight. Holy shit, you actually did it. World Star! And from that point onward, Guatemala was ruled by a series of US-backed dictatorships, all the way up until 1996. This kind of
Yeah, that was something, I will say this, the containment of communism. Unfortunately, the whole deal with the containment of communism is the fact that steps were taken that were not needed. We have no right to determine what a country does with themselves or anything like this. For instance, why did we go to Vietnam? Why? You know, Kennedy wasn't going to go to Vietnam, and that's why he fucking died. Kennedy didn't want to go into Vietnam, and he was actually going to pull everyone out, but then I guess the higher powers found out about this, killed Kennedy, inserted Lyndon Johnson, who was a warmongering piece of shit, and basically they got their war. They got their war, and they got 50,000+ young people killed, young Americans killed, and also nearly 1 million Vietnamese died too. That's staggering. Jesus wept.
Situation happened in several other places and times as well, almost always driven by some combination of red fear and yellow love. I won't give any more details for the sake of time, but that doesn't mean they weren't big deals. So you might be wondering, where did these companies go? Surely the Clan of Banana Shenanigans can't still be around today. Well, that's where you're wrong. They're still in operation, just under different names. Standard Fruit changed their name in 1991 to become none other than Dole Food Company. You know, when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of Super Monkey Ball, and I used to wonder, what kind of cruel tyrant would just stick an ape in a ball for their own amusement? Well, now I know. Those bastards. As for United, one day in 1976, their CEO decided he couldn't take the heat anymore, so he jumped out the fucking window. That's a real thing, look it up. Then some other guy bought the company and renamed it to, drumroll please, Chiquita Banana. That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Dole became Chiquita. I thought they were both.
Well, no. Dole is its own thing.
Dole was the other company.
Dole was Vaccaro. This is the banana.
I thought he was talking like it was the same company.
No, the banana.
I didn't pay attention when he said.
Yeah, Standard Fruit became Dole.
Gotcha.
And,
so they are both.
For their own amusement, 76. There's
United.
Those bastards. As for United
Fruit, yeah, became.
So I also missed
Bananas United Fruit.
Sorry, my brain dumb. I got ADHD.
The face you once knew as an innocent, fun-loving dancer/fruit merchant is actually a ruthless tyrant who overthrows democracies and undermines basic human rights for her own profit.
Wow, Mussolini. Wow, way to include the Mussolini clip.
Today, till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Yeah. Hate to say it, but the containment of communism was not, well, in some ways it was successful, but in not the ways that I think they wanted it to be. Instead, they should have just allowed the Soviet Union to do what it did and just let
It actually sounded to me like what they were trying to do down there was a lot closer to democratic socialism than communism. From what he was naming, he's like giving land that was unused back to the people, and putting democracy in place. Sounds to me like communism. It's like, yeah, that's everybody's immediate thing that they go to whenever they don't understand like what a little bit of democratic socialism does look like.
Well, and here's the thing: with certain systems, democratic socialism, does work. Now, I don't think that I don't think the overstepping of the bounds of certain businesses in order to operate normally how they're supposed to, as long as they're not violating any laws and hurting people with their products and stuff like that, I don't think that there's any issues. I don't think there should be any overstep. But whenever it comes to stuff like, I don't know, taxation, you do have to rely on government entities to run that, and that is a form of social welfare. Democratically agreeing on the taxes that are put in place. For instance, taxation for the longest time in the United States was dependent wholly upon sales tax. Sales tax was it. That was the only tax that you had to pay as a United States citizen. Nowadays, you have to pay
lands tax, income tax.
Well, income tax is the big one because that was instituted in World War I, and it was supposed to go away, but it never did.
I have to pay a tax to kill myself really slowly.
Yes, instituting higher tax.
Fucking expensive now, dude.
Yeah, instituting
2 packs of these when I was in college cost me $12. Guess how the fuck much they are now? $18 fucking unless I use the discount card.
Yeah, which that's another thing too.
That is absurd.
Taxing goods and stuff like that, especially who was a big proprietor of that? Rob Reiner. Rob Reiner was big on getting the taxes increased on cigarettes.
Okay, so why am I mad about this? Because most of you that don't smoke probably think that I'm an asshole for being mad about this. But listen to this. The idea is by increasing the taxes on cigarettes, it'll be a good incentive for people to stop smoking. This is a fucking addictive chemical. Stopping is not as fucking easy as you think it is. If you've never been addicted to shit, man, like, I'm trying to think of something. Like, go try nailing jelly to a tree. Like, it's almost that hard. Like, it is not fucking easy, man. And what it's actually doing instead, what it actually is like, hey, these people are already highly addicted to this product, so let's just, like, fucking raise something, the cost on something that they basically need to function properly sky high.
Well,
raising the taxes on these sky high, in my opinion, is one step below raising the prices on medicine that people need sky high. I think that's fucked.
It is fucked.
And I don't care if you disagree with me. That's what I think.
It is fucked that they raise the taxes, but the main reason why they raise taxes is because, honestly, they can, and the anti-smoking groups did it, and advocated for it because they say, well, it'll make people not want to smoke. No, that's not how it works.
It makes me wish I didn't smoke.
Well, but that's the thing.
Doesn't mean it's easy to quit.
Here's what I'll say about cigarettes. When it was discovered that cigarettes can cause lung cancer, you know what they did? Cigarettes, by law, have to have the Surgeon General's warning on it about smoking may cause cancer. That should have been the end of it. And, people should be allowed to smoke if they want to smoke. But because anti-smoking groups basically go out of their way to lie through their teeth about the dangers of secondhand smoke and, like, the dangers of it, which in certain cases does lead to cancer. But do you know what leads to more cancers and more deaths than fucking cigarettes? Food. Do you see picketers outside of McDonald's every day the same way you see about smoking? No. You see the same thing about, like, all these other, like, fast food restaurants that are literally putting these preservatives in the food that's literally causing impotence. It's causing erectile dysfunction. It's causing high blood pressure. It's causing cancer, and no one's doing anything about it. Why? I mean, it kills 10 times the people that smoking does.
Not to mention a combination of the two is even worse.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing with smoking, with indulging in vices. People should not be held to sin over vices that are asymptomatic and aren't hurting anybody. Like, you shouldn't, like, if there's someone out there smoking crack, but yet is perfectly capable of living their everyday life, then that's on them. If someone out there is indulging in alcohol, but yet is functioning to the point where they don't drive while they're inebriated, they go to work every day, they do all this, as long as they're not hurting anybody, then they should not be seen as a sinner, seen as like a villain because they're indulging in their vices. Now look, I have my vices, and as far as I know, I don't hurt anybody by indulging in my vices. But does that mean I should be held as a sinner? Held as, like, someone who is like a villain and derided as a villain?
As far as I know, the only person I hurt is my future self with what I do.
Exactly. But that's your choice. You are freely choosing to do that. And that's the important thing.
It's more of a choice of my past self. It's like, if it were easy, I would totally, like, never buy another pack of these, never fill that vape up again, like, never eat unhealthily again. But all of those things are extremely hard to just up and do.
True.
It's like, I've gone to the grocery store being like, I'm going to buy nothing but healthy stuff today, and then I start looking through the grocery store and I was like,
fuck,
they barely even have healthy stuff in the grocery store, man.
That's why I go to the Whole Foods aisle.
It's like, Jesus fucking Christ.
And the Whole
Foods. The Whole Foods aisle, everything's fucking $15 for like that much.
Yeah. That's why
I can't afford it.
That's why I look for, like, the discount aisles where Whole Foods stuff is.
I probably could if I didn't smoke these, but my dumbass college self decided it was a good idea to smoke some Jarring Blacks to mourn the passing of Peter Steele, so now I'm screwed. But I did quit. Well, I'm not going to say I quit because it's only been 2 days, but I am making an attempt right now to quit one form of my nicotine, and in a few weeks, if that works out, I'm going to quit another.
Well,
so
I wish you luck in it, dude. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah, I definitely need it because it's not fucking easy.
Well,
if I sound a little more overly aggressive during this video, it might be because I don't have any snus right
now. Might be the case. So, all right.
I was wondering why I didn't smell anything minty.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
I need to get me some fucking icebreakers so I can still have the mintiness at least.
Yeah.
Have you tried patches?
To quit nicotine?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do shit.
Well, all right. That's going to do it. So, this was Sam O'Nella's video on the Banana Republics. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more from Sam O'Nella, click his name. And until next time, I'm Nate.
I'm Kate.
I am Nick.
This is Calliope.
Calliope, Bilbo, and Vega.
And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.